Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back, and today we're going to do One Piece chapter 1077 review. Let's get into it. The title of this chapter, you should have put it together sooner. We start off with the cover page where Caesar and Judge have just realized that it's not actually a beef between them two, it's actually a beef towards Vegapunk. And my best guess on what actually happened between them and Vegapunk is that maybe their inclination was toward creating these deadly weapons and Vegapunk did not want to create these. However, once Mads broke apart and Vegapunk went to the world government, he ended up making these weapons anyway. And I feel like Caesar and Judge were like, yo, we just ended up getting left behind without a bag. You know what I'm saying? They didn't get that bag that Vegapunk got. Getting into the chapter, we open with Sentomaru telling some of the people that work at Egghead Island to get off the island. He even mentions Ohara and how the world government ended up taking them out. And I think Sentomaru is highlighting something very important here as he states, the fact that they're targeting Grandpa Punk shows how serious they are about erasing him. That's why I think whatever is coming will be even more monumental. So what Sentomaru is saying is that whatever happens here at Egghead will be even crazier than what happened to Ohara. So maybe Egghead is potentially going to get wiped out or some crazy character is going to pull up. And so I'll get back to this in a second here. We then move to the control room where Luffy, Zoro, and Lucci and Kaku are still fighting the Seraphim. And these Seraphim are strong, man. Even Zoro's like, yo, are you guys Kaido or something? And I find it hilarious that Zoro just realized that these Seraphim might be Lunarian, right? So I think we've been underestimating the Seraphim's role in the story thus far. As Zoro states, he's practically invincible when his fire is on. So my first thought here was back to the fight between Zoro and King. And in this fight, once Zoro figured out King's ability and started using advanced Conqueror Haki attacks, Zoro states this: "You're blocking now. I thought my attacks had no effect." Thus, this implies that only advanced Conqueror Haki attacks can get through the Lunarian defense. So this is similar to Big Mom and Kaido, how their defenses were so strong that nothing could actually truly damage them until they got through that kind of Haki layer. So if we really think about all the advanced Conqueror Haki users in the story, there's not many of them. So I'm really wondering who can actually challenge these Seraphim in the future, right? So there are only a few Straw Hats that can challenge them, right? So we know confirmed that Zoro and Luffy have advanced Conqueror's Haki, and so we don't know anything about Sanji and Jinbei if they can actually damage these Seraphim. And just imagine if these Seraphim actually grow up and become even stronger than they already are. I think they will end up being very, very scary and a huge problem later on. So I think this is best showcased in the battle between the Seraphim Jinbei and Nami, where Nami even uses her Thunderbolt attack, and this basically does no damage to Jinbei. And we get a really cool moment from Sanji here as he uses a rare fillet strike against Seraphim Jinbei. We also actually see how Sanji's ability gets activated. So he's initially really angry and strikes Seraphim Jinbei, and then in the next scene we see his eyebrows flip and his latent ability get activated. So it's cool that Oda is showing us an example of this right away after he just addressed it in the previous SBS. So whenever Sanji's eyebrows flip, that's when his genetic enhancements kick in, so his super strength, his rigid body, and his super speed. But luckily, there is one way to take out these Seraphim, and it's the traditional way that we've seen since the beginning of the story. It's using the power of the sea. And Lilith does this with her bubble gun. As she states, the bubbles are designed to harness the ocean's energy. So the green blood gives the same pros and cons as having a devil fruit. And we see how this bubble ends up weakening S-Snake. However, S-Snake ends up using her cuteness and still gets everyone petrified. But I think Oda is really displaying how S-Snake's powers really work. You don't always need to be in love with Boa to make this ability work, and you don't need to only think that she's cute. I think you can feel sorry for her, just like Frankie did when he put the bubble on her, and even in that scenario, she can petrify you. So I think what Oda is doing here is he's going to wipe out each of these teams one by one, and so this team here with Usopp, Frankie, and Lilith are basically wiped out now. And petrifying, honestly, is a really easy way to take them out of the story without necessarily killing off like really important characters, you know what I'm saying? And we finally catch up with Shaka as he had an idea of where the Stella body could be, and he ended up in the old Devil Fruit Research Laboratory. And Shaka all of a sudden notices the Cypherpole agents trapped there, and then he notices the Stella body and ends up running towards the Stella body, and he's just like, yo, how did you get here, dude? And boom, Shaka gets shot right in the head and is taken out. And we hear these final footsteps, katak, katak, katak. So who could have just taken out Shaka Vegapunk? I'm going to throw out two names here, but I think it's honestly leaning towards one as I've just found some more evidence for this. The first piece of evidence I want to cover is the gun, which looks like the guns of the Celestial Dragons. And honestly, my first thought would have been Van Augur. However, it doesn't look anything like Van Augur's gun as he kind of has like a trumpet spout at the end of his gun. So it has to be a Celestial Dragon. And my next thought was like, oh my god, it could be Doffy since he got a gun from Treble when he was a kid. And this was the same gun that he used to take out his his brother and his own father. And wouldn't it just be amazing if Doffy was the one pulling the strings again? Imagine if he was messing with all this tech and literally tricking Vegapunk, the smartest man in the world. It would really make sense why he was the king of the underworld for so long. But my friends, I think I have an even better theory for this. So since the gun looks like a celestial dragon, who is the ultimate celestial dragon? It is Emu. And how do I have evidence for this? So going back to the katak, guess what character was introduced in the same way with this katak? It was Emu who was introduced with this katak at Marijoa, where they were looking at the giant straw hat. And like I mentioned earlier with Sentomaru was saying that something monumental, even bigger than Ohara, will go down at Egghead. And what's more monumental than Emu wiping out an entire island? Maybe it's Emu literally going to that island and taking everyone out themselves. And we don't know if Emu's a him or a her, so I'm just going to refer to them as they. So if Emu is here at Egghead, it's going to be absolutely crazy. I did not think that we would be introduced to the final villain this early in the story. And if this is true, I'm going to be so hyped because we truly are getting to the end of One Piece. And I would be really sad if there's not many chapters left after this. Like, how is Emu already getting introduced here? It's absolutely wild. And one last final thing I want to cover is with the bubble gun that Lilith was using. I think this would actually be super useful for Usopp and Nami. Let's say Nami added this to her staff and Usopp added this to one of his attacks. These bubbles could actually be super helpful because they would remove any devil fruit user's ability. And the main issue for Nami and Usopp is they don't have any abilities, so them leveling the playing field would actually be super interesting in a future fight. But yeah, that's all I got. This chapter was absolutely wild, and if Emu is actually here, it is going to blow my mind completely. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Let me know who you guys think shot Shaka. Maybe it was Doffy. Who knows who it could be. And I will talk to you guys later. Deuces.